Junior Barrack is basically a Trinidadian who prides himself on working with people for their development. It's a pride I take, is a job I take very seriously, and I've done it in the context of voluntary work over the years. So I have been involved in squatter regularization from Digo Martin West in the current Member of Parliament constituency in
Right.
Scorpion. I went up there and cut roads and so on for the people up there while Mr. Rowley was a minister. I represented the people in Bagatelle, Seatrace, North Post Road when Mr. Vincent Last was breaking down their homes. The current Prime Minister was a minister in government at the time. We came around the parliament under my leadership and got Mr. Vincent Last to reverse his decision. And what he actually did was to build back the homes that he broke down. I have been involved in community related matters throughout the East West corridor. And my latest operation is in Lopino Bonner West, where I worked with the people in Windy Hill, Bonner North area to get their development. The government spent over $50 million on that development, and it is still not complete because of wastage and so on. I had to engage Mr. Rowley as Minister of Housing, and we had a long engagement because up to this day, the sewer is not in place. The people have not gotten their deeds of lease, and the community is still not complete
Wow.
after spending a large amount of money. So I have done a lot of work right across the corridor in terms of squatter regularization and also developing a plan, a development program, the Sustainable Integrated Development Plan for Bonner West, Bonner North particularly. And that plan went right up to the Prime Minister, Mr. Manning, who literally ordered the current Prime Minister to implement the plan. He never did.
Wow.
So there are a lot of areas we had to demonstrate. The people in Bonner had to go down to Port of Spain and demonstrate to get that plan going. And we got him to get the development going. But the strategic development plan for the community was never implemented.
Right.
So there is it. I was a senator. I was a senator, a UNC senator, if you want to call it that. And I was engaged in the development or the mobilization of the Orisha community for public holidays. The holidays committee actually voted for an Orisha holiday, and then under orders they had to reverse it. I work with the Baptist community, Archbishop Randu and Archbishop Burke and the Archbishop designate Nichols to get the holiday. Right? I address large gatherings of Baptists, Shouter Baptists, in order to bring them to the parliament and demonstrate it there for at least 4 weeks before they will move forward to get their holiday.
All right.
I was engaged also in the preventing the removal of Emancipation Day as a public holiday. The government wanted to remove Emancipation Day as a public holiday and replace it with Arrival Day. I was engaged with Cambon, Kafra Cambon, Entu Springer, and others to prevent that day from being removed. And it was retained after some struggle.
Right.
So yes, I am engaged in that kind of work, community work, and other areas.
Great. Wonderful. So all in all, you're saying to us this evening that you have been a person who helps to build the voice of the people, helps to carry and push the voice of the people so that their um, sentiments could be heard and recognized in places
Yes,
where
yes,
decisions could be made on their behalf.
Yeah, my latest engagement was hello.
Yes, hearing you.
Yes, right. My latest engagement was in General Council. I'm a member of General Council. The General Council had not yet gone out of office.
Right.
I'm a member of General Council and was appointed in a committee to do a proposal for the International Decade for People of African Descent. My Mr. Harvey was the chairman, and Mr. Fitzgerald Hines was the other member. With Mr. Harvey's urging, I wrote the proposal, and the proposal was placed before the General Council. And although I made the presentation before the General Council orally, the written document was never presented to the General Council. And there had been a lot of confusion with regard to that. As a result of that, I was very distraught, and that is the real reason why I entered this race. I thought that the General Secretary and the political leader should have allowed the document, the proposal for the International Decade for People of African Descent to be circulated in General Council and give the General Council its right to determine whether or not it wanted to go with the proposal.
All right.
Up to
So
this day, hello?
yes. So we'll get down a little bit in that conversation. So hold on
Yes,
one. We'll get down a little bit in that conversation a little bit. In a little bit I should say. But before you go there, you mentioned something a little while ago and you said that you were a senator and you said a UNC senator. So how
yes.
no, absolutely no discrimination, no implications at all, sir. But for the sake of the listening audience, how long have you been a member of the People's National Movement? How long?
Oh, I have been a member of the People's National Movement for approximately 20 years.
Okay.
I worked with the Minister of Sport as his personal assistant in Sandy Grande, that's Mr. Roger Boynes.
Right.
And I was the advisor to the chairman of the regional corporation for 7 years with Mr. Ronald Boynes, who is also a candidate in this race.
Okay.
I worked with them before I became a member of the party for at least 3 years. So I became a member of the party in 2002, and my work in the party is significant.
Wonderful, wonderful. And we do appreciate your time, your dedication, and all of your work in the party. Most definitely, citizens of Trinidad and Tobago would have benefited and continue to benefit from your work and sacrifice. Does that also mean that you did some work? Because I heard you talk about the Orisha community and the spiritual Baptist community, and
Yes.
did you do some work with Bishop Philip? Because I know he mentioned in his interview as well that he did some work
Yeah.
with.
What happened is that I in my mobilization of the Baptist community,
Yes,
the entire Baptist community was united in the effort. So
right.
I work with all the major Baptist organizations, the National Congress of Incorporated Spiritual Baptists, the NESB, the National Evangelical Spiritual Baptist organization, Archbishop Burke's organization, and all the organizations and the Judah and everybody. We work together to get the holy.
Right.
So there are so many bishops and archbishops and other persons which I engage with during the time
Yes.
because I was the point in that matter. They know me more than I know them. But when I see them, I recognize them.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Right. So again, thank you very much for that. I'm seeing a viewer across board is asking. He said that he joined a little late, so he would like your name. So for the viewers who just joined in on the program with us tonight, we have Mr. Junior Barrack, and he is contesting the position of political leader in the PNM's internal election coming up this month and into the beginning of December. So we are getting to know him. We are getting to find out some of his intentions, his motives, his dreams and aspirations, not only for the People's National Movement, but also for Trinidad and Tobago. There's an elephant in the room, Mr. Barrack, and I like to ask the difficult questions. I always say that there's an elephant in the room. So we'll start by asking from the ABCs. Why political leader? Where did it all start? What gave you the confidence, to put yourself forward, put yourself now in the limelight, to be under public scrutiny? And we know, as members of the PNM family, we know how we are. So to put yourself under public scrutiny, to to be weighed and tested to see if you are fit enough to be the political leader of our party. You know why?
Yeah, that was easy. Because when I saw what was taking place in General Council,
Yes.
and I was appalled by that the party is run in that manner. The party is run in a manner of despotism. The General Council makes no decisions on important government matters. Although the Article 13(1) of the Constitution of the PNM makes it absolutely clear that the executive is responsible to the General Council. That is not taking place. So the political leader is supposed to bring ideas that he has, that he wants to distill and organize for government to the General Council.
Yes.
When the General Council hear these ideas and so on, the members of the General Council will then take those matters back to the constituency groups. The
Right.
constituency groups, and they will then discuss these matters, and the party groups who have their representative in the constituency group will then be able to hear what these policies are. And those policies can be discussed and examined and so on. And then they can come back up the chain to the General Council where a decision can be made. At
Mr.
present,
Can I
yeah,
could I interject? It sounds to me as though there was a sort of a chain effect created from the inception of the People's National Movement in Article 13. In Article 13(1) to be exact, as you just mentioned, where, I mean, contrary to some of the things that we are seeing and hearing now, consideration for every armed body and entity in the movement is not being recognized. But from what you just said, that's not what the Constitution states. You said that the executive is responsible to the General Council, and the General Council is going to review and then transfer information to the constituency executives and to the constituency groups and so on,
yes.
down to the party groups, and then so the
But
information is circulate so that everybody will be on the same page, or even if you don't agree, you agree to disagree, because now you have the information about what is taking place.
precisely.
Right. So I would like, for the sake of the listening audience, I would like for you to repeat that process. You said it is an article.
Yes, yeah. When the executive, when the central executive has a policy position which is like it would like to take,
Yes.
it must bring that policy position to the General Council for ratification. It is responsible to General Council. General Council is comprised of individuals who were recommended to be in those positions by the constituency group. These persons are responsible to bring in information to the constituency groups, and the constituency groups can understand what is taking place so they can have their input into what is taking place at the General Council level. The constituency groups are comprised of party group representatives, and therefore the party group representative can take the information from the constituency groups to their party groups. When this process is in effect, the whole party is involved in government, the entire party,
Yes.
and people have their voice heard. And it is very important that that happens, because people are not going to engage in policy decisions which are against their interests.
Yes.
So the interests of the party now will be served. But this is not what is happening right now. And this is what I feel must take place. And if I am leader of the party, I will ensure that that is what takes place in the party.
Yes. So from I know that Miss Tishara is going up for political leader as well. Yes.
Mhm.
Is there one other gentleman,
Yes, Mr. Ronald Boynes.
Mr. Ronald Boyne? And from the presentations of each of you, the three of you, I am hearing similar sentiments concerning communication within the party and
Yes,
the failure to clearly distribute information and the reaction that it is causing, and a desperate intention to address that. So I'm picking no sides. I just want to wish each and every one of you the best, the best, the best of luck.
yeah,
um
thank you.
Going up against Dr. the Honorable Keith Christopher Rowley. Has he has been running in his second term as Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, and he has been the political leader of the People's National Movement since he won it from Mr. Patrick Manning. May his soul rest in peace, and his family
Yeah.
continue to be comforted.
Mm.
Um, how do you feel about that transition? How do you feel about going up against Dr. Rowley? We know that this is a professional process.
Uh, Dr. Rowley and I know each other very well.
Yes,
We have had differences of opinion over the years. We have been respectful about our opinions, right? But we are, in fact, not on the same page as he made mention in terms of development and dealing with issues in communities and so on. So we are at odds and has been at odds for approximately 30 years. It is not. This is not this idea of talking and putting forward ideas contrary to that of the current prime minister is not new. We have had sparring on many occasions,
right,
including his views on development,
right,
including his views on squatter regularization,
right,
including the way in which he treats his constituents. I have been working in his community, in the way in which opportunities for development in communities have been stifled. So we have had this areas going, but I've always given him the benefit of the doubt, right? But this time, with that activity where the suppression of the proposal for the International Decade for People of African Descent was concerned, I thought it was the last straw, and that is the reason why I'm here.
yes. Most definitely, some attention needs to be paid because we see wounds, we see scars in our society. I mean, not only in Trinidad and Tobago, but around the world. Just being somebody from the Afro descendant is a challenge. Just to exist, just to survive, just to access certain opportunities and privileges, as we call them. Just being somebody who is more the dark skinned or cottony texture, woolly texture here inside. It's a struggle on a day-to-day basis, from stigmatization to all these different types of things. So any form of upliftment or attention that could be paid to the Afro community in Trinidad and Tobago would be of great progress. It will help to bring some balance. So I am with you on that one, that the General Council could have been given a fair opportunity, to thoroughly go through this and prepare this, and then spread the information around so that we could make some forward progress.
Yes,
Like,
yes,
the word says that it's not by might and it's not by power, and we know that God's timing is always perfect. And then had it
yes.
had it not been for that, Mr. Barrack, you would not be sitting here today, right?
No, no, no. I would have had no interest in doing this.
Right. So everything happens for a reason. And again,
Yes.
we thank you. We thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes. So we could get in a little bit about, so we touching on the relationship between the party and between
Yes.
the whole political genre of it, which is
Yes.
movement, because the party, as we call it, the movement, we don't like to loosely use the word
Yes.
party, because we know in Trinidad and Tobago when we say party what we mean.
Yes.
So the movement is about brotherhood. The movement,
Yes.
reading the Constitution, the movement is about equality.
Yes.
It's about progress. It's about education. It's about
Yes.
patriotism. It's about loving where you are, who you are. It's about what you could do to make Trinidad and Tobago a better place. It's about working together.
Absolutely.
Together we achieve, and this must be
Yes.
part of the reason why we have to constantly remind ourselves, brothers and sisters. And Mr. Barrack, you too, we thank you very much. Karen Scorpion, the gentleman's name does not ring a bell. A viewer is saying that he is from Paranat Scorpion and your name doesn't ring a bell.
Right.
Probably he moved, probably the timing, I don't know. I'm making an excuse here. I don't know if you want to respond to his comment.
Oh no, I work with Dexter Lee's mother in cutting the road in Scorpion. Up in the back, we cut the roads going into the estate area, up through the hills and down, and eventually the roads were paved, and that is how they get their roads and so on inside.
All right. So Cross, I hope that
Yeah,
answer.
Mrs. Lee, right? Lynette was the one of the point person in that program. But when I did the work, I never went back. For once, I went once, and she called out all the neighbors, and they came out and they hugged me, and they were so happy. But I've never come back. Where I never came back to do anything inside there during that period of time.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay. So
Yeah.
maybe that's the reason why.
Yeah.
So we have
It's my modus operandi. The chairman of the LSA once told me, he said, Barak, I said you. You will move from place to place, and you will not stay there. You will do your work and you will move on. And that has been the situation with me at all times. I never stayed. So I work in many communities. I did extraordinary work, even with the Baptist community, and then I will just move on. I just do my work and move.
all right. Okay. So
Yeah.
one of the visions that we have here, so we sharing it with you tonight, Mr. Frank, as somebody who's going up for political leader. And if you win, of course, you will be running for the prime ministerial seat in Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes.
We believe here at 868 Television and discussing with some of our like business partners and stuff like that, and even the young men that we live with in the communities and on the corners, and we just kind of pool ideas together over a period of time, and we
Mm-hmm.
came up with this. Um, yes, we coming out of a pandemic. We don't know when we will be out, but it's not as it was. So unemployment was already in a critical position, and now it's even worse.
Mm-hmm.
We have crime going up. We have people losing loved ones. It's difficult to access that $7,000 that the NIS speak about, because we know how it is sometimes to go through the system and time,
Mm-hmm.
bodies in funeral homes and stuff like that. We're being real with this conversation tonight.
Yes.
From a period of a couple of years of gathering information, we studied and we came up with a plan, and I would like to share it with you, because we
All
believe
right. Go ahead. Yes.
we believe that if you're taking sick, depending on the state of your health, and you go to a medical institution, they will treat you according to the severity of your illness. Not so?
Mm-hmm. Yes. They ought to. Yes.
Right? And the position that we are in right now, we need urgent attention with day-to-day living for our citizens in Trinidad and Tobago. Many up to this afternoon, we saw a small shopkeeper in Point Fortin got robbed, and we were like, that business doesn't even be pumping like that. And most of the times there's a lady there, wondering if the lady is okay and all these types of things. So
Yes.
people just randomly doing things. Pressure is so much, it's rising, and not everyone fortunate like us have a relationship with the Lord, as much as we think it's easy and convenient and all of this, and the circumstances of living every day is becoming very heavy on many of our neighbors, homes, constituents, and so on. And so again, we came up with something that could actually stabilize the condition of living for citizens in Trinidad and Tobago until,
Yes.
until we could go further to say, okay, now we will start doing this, change the diet, so on, so forth, so forth.
Right.
And that is through local government.
Yeah.
Local government reform has been a conversation for the longest while.
Yes.
However, taxation is already as it is. And
Yeah.
it's being realistic because the statistics come out and they say, okay, this is the percentage of people that actually living under the poverty line in Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes.
High amount. So the idea is, the proposal is, invest in the councillors. Of course, there would be management and there would be strategy. Not be a Viking thing, but invest in the councillors. And I would start from the biggest. I would like a minute of your time and viewers just to listen to the idea and get your point of view and your contribution on what I am going to share today.
All right.
I've been saying it, yeah. But it's so you invest. It will take for the year, every fiscal budget, it's going to cost $1.68 billion. 3%. 3% of our average fiscal budget. So we said it's usually be somewhere between 50 to 60. So we said a $55
Right.
budget,
Yes.
right? $1.68 billion, and that is going to afford every councillor, of course, with his team, with his very efficient team, $1 million every month. When we do the division, it's going to be able to create 30, 60 employment opportunities for people in different fields. 60 employment opportunities, and if done on a rotation basis, based on the criticality of that electoral district, a rotation could take place. So 60 this fortnight and 60 next fortnight. So every month, these 120 homes could get something, to buy something, to pay something, to do something. Right? So in a nutshell, that is what it is. So then the shopkeeper wouldn't have to get robbed a pack of cigarettes and a bag of bread and a box of carnation milk, because it is earned fortnight could afford until the cycle come out again. So this is what it is. And I just want to share it with you. We said we actually broke it down. There's all the there. So if you want to hear it in further detail, we could talk about it after. But basically, if it's employing teams of 6 men, 1 supervisor, 2 tradesmen, and 3 helpers. So you hire men accordingly. And of course, in above minimum wage, so we say each supervisor will be paid $50, each tradesman will be paid $40, and each laborer will be paid $35 per hour, 8 hours a day, Monday to Friday, 20 days. So it's kind of like that, and it accumulated $400,000 for 10 groups. So that is 6 people by 10 groups, 60 people a fortnight. It has accumulated to $400,000 out of the million for the month. Then that councillor and his team has $600,000 to invest in the material, and then keep circulating. So I don't know what you think about the idea. We call it project building from the ground up, because of course, like you mentioned concerning the information coming from the central executive and coming down to the general council. And the chain and the trickle and the anointing and the is not reaching down. And that's a big part of our problem. But when it's time to vote, we remember that we have to go down for some strange reason. But I'll leave that up to you to touch on all of that.
Right. So you want me to comment on it?
Yes, please.
All right. I believe that is a noble act, because what you're trying to do is to stabilize the economic conditions of people who have suffered great loss in terms of jobs and opportunities as a result of the COVID pandemic. So that is great. And what it does is that you put some money so that people can feel a little more comfortable, right? And that is incredible. I myself was looking at some of that. And if you do that and you have a good little plan with it, you can reduce the number of inmates in prison. You will then have more money to invest in such projects because it costs around $25,000 to keep an inmate in prison. That is what the former Attorney General said. So it is a costly matter, and the figures that you're calling there are significantly less than what is happening in terms of keeping a person in prison. Sometimes for what? A joint, a marijuana joint. Right now, if you have 33 grams, you can be charged for trafficking, right? But you can have a tree in your yard, have 1,000 grams in it. So the area is that yes, there are reasons why your proposal is good, but I want to say this: we have lands in Trinidad, thousands of acres of land uncultivated, hundreds of thousands of acres of land. We have unemployment, massive unemployment, and underemployment. And it will be very good that if the government can marry the unemployment of labor with the unemployment of lands and get some business going.
Yes.
So I have looked at the matter, right? And I will want to first of all outline my program for reparation, which will help. And it is along that line that you're talking about. But our reparation in Trinidad could come from the government. The government is the owner of the lands left by the British, 1,864 square miles, and most of it is uninhabited. Reparation can come in the forms of land, and I have worked out a formula. The formula is simple. For every white man that brought a slave to Trinidad, he was given 16 acres to that slave. For every mulatto, and the mulattoes were his children by black women, that mulatto would get 8 acres for every slave that he brought to Trinidad. So we have a measure. If you take the mean, it is 12 acres per individual, per slave, on average. But I'm saying that you should give for the 20,600 slaves that emerged from slavery, you can give them 10 acres of land. Now that land will be vested in a company for the purpose of investment. But if you give 10 acres of land for 20,600 slaves that survived slavery in 1834, you have a number that goes like 206,000 acres of land. I will propose that about 8,000 African families, young African families, can get 5 acres of land. I can see we going into things like coconuts with about 20,000 acres. We can go back into cocoa, another 20,000 acres. All these will be managed by individual companies and individuals who will be given lands in that area. Like things like cassava. We can plant significant amounts. We have a problem with food security. And because we have a problem with food security, we can actually solve our problem with food security by employing the lands that we have and manufacturing downstream and storing our food. So you will give farmers, like the persons planting cassava, will get a fixed price per kilo or pound for the cassava they produce, any amount they produce. We will build facilities for research and development because you want the agricultural products to be packaged, you want it to be properly preserved and all these things. We can build those facilities, and the labor that you talk about there can build those facilities. For storing of food that we need, like what is happening in Ukraine now, the price of food internationally has soared. We are having a food inflation. But if we had security, if we had storage of food for ourselves, that would not happen. So we will build massive silos and store our food for times of need. That means that we have to build. We have to build. And in building, we will employ our people productively. They will get, like you said, but even more money. I'm looking at more money for the individuals. And therefore, they will not only be working to survive based on the pandemic, but they will be actually engaged in building Trinidad and Tobago. Right? We will take care of the reparation problem to an extent, and we will take care of our unemployment of land and our unemployed. All three will take place one time, but it didn't stop there. We still have the potential for Britain and France and Spain to pay reparation. That does not solve that problem for them. That'll pay reparation still. But the reparation can be invested in these projects to make them viable, right? And we could secure markets in these places for the products that we produce. I include in that long-term programs such as teak, mahogany, cedar, and those things planted in large scale. Additionally, you give me the opportunity to roll out my economic plans. So should I continue?
Feel free, go right ahead.
All right. Trinidad and Tobago import a lot of meat. But the real meat, we like our wild meat. We like turtles, we like agouti, lap, tattoo, and so on. But it is not a conservation problem because you never hear someone saying that cows are going extinct or sheep are going extinct or those things going extinct or chicken. Because we eat them, and if we eat them and we cultivate them and we grow them and we farm them, they will never go extinct. So what we need to do is to open farms, 500 acres to 100 acres, as the case may be, for the rearing of our animals. We'll put them back in the wild in large quantities, but we will not go and hunt them in the wild. It will be for our tourism, our sightseeing, and so on, our hiking. But in captivity, we will have enough of those areas there to have an industry. We might even be able to export, you know. So these are some of the activities that we can engage in with respect to an economy. And what is amazing with this area here is that if we store food at a large quantity, it gives us leverage internationally. Because there are countries internationally that need food, and we can engage with giving food to them, and we can also get economic opportunity for our people. So there is no downside here. Additionally, we will not be competing with the current economic structure, because what is happening is that if you go to get a loan, and your loan is for a project which competes with the elites in the country, you will not get the loan. If you will see that it is easier for you to buy a car, if you have 10% down and you have a job, you can buy a car. If you have 10% down and you have a job, you can't get a loan for business. You can't get it. So we know that the way in which the place is rigged, it is not conducive for investment. In my position, I will give the investment capital to the credit unions. I will allow the credit unions to receive persons' pay from their jobs. Right now, they are not allowed to do that. And they will be able to furnish our people with financial opportunities and investment.
Yes.
So I will move away from the traditional banks in that regard and give back to the credit unions certain instruments of investment which they can use. So there's more, but for now I will stop there and take and see where you're going with it.
Oh, thank you very much for that information. I mean, it's such a pleasure listening and knowing that there are actual citizens in Trinidad and Tobago, not only with the passion to lead, but also taught through plans. You know, if given the opportunity, will actually bring some form of change. From listening to you, I could say that you have a plan, Mr. Barrack. Have a plan. You know, one of the biggest. I don't know about your viewers or your view tonight. You can comment and say. But one of the biggest questions would be, well, what's his plan? What is her plan? You know, if she gets through, what will you do? And I would say that I am impressed by listening to your economic vision. I am impressed. You know, so I pray that all will be well. And that win, loss, or draw, as we say, that whoever wins will listen to you, live with you, will work with you for the betterment of Trinidad and Tobago, and to see, if not everything that you shared with us tonight, the majority of it come to fruition. Because really, that changes that. And I'm speaking for all of us when I say that
Yeah.
you have a plan, Mr. Barrack, and I. So because of our time has been taken already 9:15. So at this time, I would like to say thank you very much for spending this time with us. All the best to you to the support system. Again, everything happens for a reason. It's not by chance that you are in this race. Continue to talk and to share as much as you possibly do your columns, take all your radio interviews, your TV interviews, your newspaper, every single thing that you possibly could, keep information circulating and going. Genuinely and sincerely, all the best to you, Mr. Barrack, and I will hand over to you now to give some closing remarks.
All right. Thank you very much. You want me to close now?
Yes, please.
All right. Well, I must thank you for having me here. I appreciate it. I hope you can have me back because I have not yet outlay my full development program. I have not spoken about my philosophy of development. I have a development strategy, and which I have not been able to roll out here today. And I would like also to include it, right?
Well,
So if you wish to have me back, I would be happy to roll out my strategic development programming
all right.
for Trinidad and Tobago.
All right, but sorry to cut you. Don't mean to be in a rush at all. So I am here, you are here. You can feel free to touch on if you would like the philosophy and so on. You can feel free to touch.
Yes. Hello.
If you like, you can give us a little taste of what you.
Of the philosophy? All right. Yes, I can. All right. When we're talking about development, when we're talking about running a country, and you have various contending parties in it, you must have a philosophy of development. A philosophy of development defines the values of the country, and also it defines what is considered to be the culture of the country.
Yes.
So what is happening is that we are not sure what is the culture of development that we are dealing with and what is the values of that development.
Right.
So what is the role of the individual in development? That is very important. But if we don't know, we have people who are contented that rich people get richer so that they can help poor people. Never happened. They just removed Elizabeth Truss in England for that kind of behavior.
Right.
And what is happening in the United States of America, where the gap between the rich and the poor is widening. People can't buy food, but CEOs going home with thousands of times more money than the persons that they're working for them at the lowest level. So that kind of philosophy of development is also the philosophy of development that we have witnessed for, let's say, since slavery and colonialism. There always has been a very rich group who intend to get richer by the exploitation of the poor. We can't put our poor people in the hands of the rich, but that is a philosophy of development. So that philosophy of development is not working for African people, it's not working for Indian people also. Because that philosophy of development was instituted in India. And they took away everything from India. They took away their industries, their textile industry, and carried to Bristol. They took away their food, and over 35 million Indians died in India as a result of the activity of the British in taking the people and their food away from them. They took away their metal industry. Right. So that kind of philosophy has never worked. It pauperizes people. That's why they came to Trinidad. Because in Calcutta and Bombay and other places, all their wealth was gone. They started begging in the street. The British broke their thumbs so to prevent them from working. So doing looms and other skill work. Right? And pauperize them. I don't know where people believe that the rich help the poor, but that is what is being proposed. So in a development program, in my development strategy, I believe that you must start with the individual survival and prosperity. And if you start with the individual survival and prosperity, we go somewhere. Number one, what is survival? Survival is having all the requirements for your living right here, right now, or for a couple of days in the future. Prosperity is a different matter. Prosperity takes into consideration those elements of danger, like massive floods, earthquakes of catastrophic proportions, tsunamis, volcanic eruption that can blot out the sun, those areas, nuclear war, and those areas. So when you plan now for prosperity, you need everybody on board. And the prosperity is at the individual level. So the individual, in the worst possible condition, can survive. And that is prosperity. To do that, I like your idea concerning decentralization. Because in order for you to reach an individual in his home and in his family, you must have decentralization. The ministry of sorry, yeah, the Ministry of Social Development cannot administrate its activity in an electoral district with communities and find the family and the individual who needs help. It must be decentralized. So decentralization is important so that the social fabric could be properly developed and maintained. So I agree with you at 100%. Also, you have the situation of diversification of the economy in that regard. And I spoke about some of it with the reparation activities here. But diversification is also very important. And if the regional corporations that you quite rightly mentioned are engaged in economic development of their regions, then you will have automatically, you will have diversification. So as it stands now, we need to have decentralization, diversification, which you will have now. People can now employ their sun, their sea, their sand. They can employ their massive areas of land, lagoons, etc., and they can create employment and business activities which are not in the mainstream. Give them the opportunity to do that. And I like, I'm piggybacking off of your areas there, although it is part of my plan. And that is when you fight crime. Because crime is not fought with a task force. Crime is fought with the values and culture of your community and the individual. If you do not have a proper culture operating, good morning, sir, good morning, madam, nice boy, right, in your community, if you do not have a holistic approach to development of the individual, you can never fight crime. If you do not have a proper economic policy, that each individual has an opportunity to become rich, but none will go hungry, none will starve. If you don't have that program, then they will go and look for it. The philosopher John Locke said, in a state of nature, which we have created in this country, life is poor, solitary, brutish, and short. And this is what is happening. We are living it. Nobody's taking and looking out for each other, right? And the youths, and they are finding ways in which to live in a jungle. So the whole program of crime fighting and so on is supposed to be hinged to your economic development, just as your discussion with the youths produced, and then we can move forward. But instead, we are hearing things like violence as a public health emergency. A statement that is even worse than what the former commissioner of police has said when he called the little boys in the street cockroaches. Because what happened when violence is a public health issue, it means that the individuals perpetrating violence or have the potential to perpetrate violence are vectors. Vectors are eliminated. They are exterminated, right? And vectors are like cockroaches, of course, rats, dead dogs, stray dogs with rabies, and so on and that kind of thing. And you're hearing people in government making these statements. These are outlandish statements. These statements are unbecoming of leaders in the country, but it is being done. It is being done, and we cannot sit back and allow these things to be said without pushback. You see? So for a development program, it must be comprehensive. It must include every individual in our society. Yes.
Wow. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.